Way Off Topic Radio. What's up, everybody? Happy podcast day. Dan Lefebvre of Based on a True Story podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
That is a kick-ass song, Dan. Great pick, sir.
Thank you.
I mean, I can't. I mean, I'm going to be listening to a lot of them in a very short times, very, very shortly after we're done this show. A lot of them are going on to my phone.
Nice.
Because that was awesome, man. I love bands that change the tempo. They change, you know. I mean, like Tool's notorious for it, from going from a 4/3 or okay, this might get a little deep into music theory, but you know, Tool does a lot of 3/3s or 3/4, and you know, I love bands that will change that up, you know, and it's ballsy because it's like whiplash almost, you know, to your ears, but I love it, you know, and I don't know, like, is that a good analogy, you think?
Yeah, it's not easy to do well.
No, but when you do it well, it sounds great. It really does. And it's just, that was done well, I would say.
I agree.
Oh, I don't doubt it, because you picked it. Like we normally do. The guest picks the song around here. Unless it's just me and Pez, and then I just make Pez believe that he picked the last song, so I get to pick whatever I want to play. You know, and normally Pez, I think he's either he normally just goes with it. I almost said something else there. Okay, so anyway, but Dan, fear not. This is a fucking explicit episode. You know, we are we are not a clean podcast, other than ISCP podcast, or the Indie Sports Car podcast, the other podcast that I do, the first one that I did, and have been doing, and we just hit week 150 in a row.
Nice.
And how many weeks straight are you now?
That is a very good question. Because I started off the show doing every other week.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I mean, I started in April of 2016, so it's been over a year, but I don't remember exactly when I made the switch. It was a couple months. And I say couple loosely, not like two, but there's a few months into it is when I made the switch. I don't remember off the top of my head, so horrible answer.
Well, I don't know, Dan, do you want to explain to the fine folks out there what Based on a True Story is really about?
Yeah, so Based on a True Story is all about movies that claim to be, well, based on a true story. I've always been a huge fan of history. I've always been a huge fan of movies. And so kind of combining the two, I decided to create a podcast that tells the true stories behind movies. So, for example, the very first episode I did was on Revenant, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, and telling the true story of what happened with Hugh Glass, and then really comparing it to the movie and pointing out some of the key points in the movie, and where the movie gets it right and where the movie gets it wrong. And that's essentially what it is. And
that was back in April 2nd of 2016.
Yep.
That is amazing to me, actually. April 2nd, 2016, and we're coming up on almost 2 years for you, sir. We got another 4. All right, okay, I gotta stop calling you sir. I'm sorry. I just respect you so much. I'm sorry, Dan. Like, guys, like, I mean, like, you don't understand. Like, I'm gushing over here like a little schoolgirl, because like Dan's like, okay, like I'm a very picky person with everything, with food, with women. Even though I've been married to my wife and with her for 17 years, I just knew. Okay. So, and I think I was right. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, she's my co-host, and and
17 years, right? I mean, right.
yeah. I mean, well, she's my co-host for the Indie Sports Car Podcast. Knows more about racing than most people that I know, including me sometimes. Like, I really feel like dumb next to her sometimes. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. She blows me away with some of the things that she says. But we do have a new addition to the show, Mike Jokum. I think his last name is. Anyway, and he's our new executive producer. So it took a lot of responsibility off of Missy's shoulders, and she just gets to, just be a host for once. So, and it's been great. People have been loving the new dichotomy, so I'm happy about that. But, where was I going with that? I totally derailed myself there, Dan. Oh yeah. How much I love you. So I love this guy Dan right here, Dan Lefebvre. Everybody, on Twitter, I think it's well, he would know better.
It's Dan Lefebvre, DanLefeb.
There you go. So yeah, I've been following him for a while. So, I mean, it's kind of like, I've been calling you for years. How the hell should I know your number? So anyway,
you just have it on speed dial, right?
Exactly. Well, you're right there as Dan. So anyways, but yeah, I mean, the show, the amount of hours of content, Dan, that I know you put in, because I know what it takes to do a podcast, and especially like on something that isn't like, there's no website you can go to that's like the true story on insert movie here, and you get everything you need. I mean, like, just on an average per movie, like, how many research tools, like, would you say you use per movie, like, as far as books, websites, etc.?
Oh wow. It really varies. I try to include most of the content as links on each episode. Mm-hmm. So on average, but that's usually just the articles. So usually, I don't know. I'm just guessing, because it really does vary depending on the movie. But maybe 40 or 50 articles, and then a handful of books. 3 or 4 books. Wow. Typically. I
mean, just think about that, guys. This man reads 3 to 4 books to do one.
I didn't say I read them.
Oh, okay.
I listen to audiobooks.
on 2 times.
Usually I'll listen to them on either 2.5 or 3. Again, it depends on the narrator. Right. Because some of them are a little more difficult to understand. But yeah, I usually listen to them at least 2.5 to 3 times.
Right. Okay. Well, fair enough. I mean, hey, look, like I was saying to you before the show started, like, I've only read like 2, and let's see, Game of Thrones. If I've only read the first 8 chapters 3 times.
I was going to say, Game of Thrones. I mean, if you've read any of that pretty much counts as like 10 books right there.
Oh, exactly. Because it's so hard to read because it's all POV chapters. And they all kind of like talk about the same damn thing, just differently. What a 40-year-old man will think of a certain event compared to what a 10-year-old girl will think of the same event is very different. And you get both of that. So But goddamn, is it confusing when you're reading it?
I have never read them. I wouldn't know.
It's every single chapter is a POV chapter.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
it is ungodly confusing. Yeah, that's why I stick to the YouTubers.
I just watched the show, and I mean, I've seen the books, and I'm just looking at the books and looking at how long the audiobooks are. I'm like, don't really have time for that. I've got other things to read and listen to.
Yeah, and I really tried, I really did, but I have this whole ADHD thing that I now I am finally getting treated for it because it started taking over my life to where it would take me about 2.5 to 3 hours to get to work. Well, no, let me rephrase that. To get out of my driveway, because I would start. I have a three-car deep driveway, and I would start and I'm always parked in the very, very back of it. So I would start there, and by the time I would get out of my driveway and down the road, I will have gotten out and walked in my house about 20 to 25 times. And by the time I get into the house, I could not tell you what the hell I did that for. But I knew that when I was backing up and then threw it back into park and turned the keys off to go run back in the house, I knew what I was doing. But by the time I get into the house, I beats the hell out of me. So I would just grab all this kind of stuff and I would just fill my truck with this crap that I don't need. Like, I remember one time I brought, I literally put my guitar in my guitar case and threw it in my van. I don't know why. I was just kind of hoping that was it. It wasn't. But yeah, so yeah, but I got some medication for it, so now it's I go out there and I take off. So,
Nice.
but I still can't read a book well. But so the only two other books I've ever read were it's the autobiography of Willpower and what was the other book? Well, yeah, I tried Game of Thrones. Yeah, right. And what was the other book that we were just talking about? I'm sorry. Uh,
That's it.
I don't think we were talking about
We
a
were just
book.
talking.
Where were we?
Oh, Das Boot.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other book I will be reading. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, because that speaking of Das Boot, now if you guys aren't listeners, and I know Dan's listening right now. He's a Game of Thrones YouTuber, and he sent me a screenshot of his Podbean with Way Off Topic Radio, and right next to it, I saw it. It said, based on a true story. And I was like, rock on,
Oh,
Dan.
nice.
So you have a fellow namesake and fan out there. So there
That's
you go.
awesome.
So at any rate, but yeah, where I was going with that. Oh yeah, I was just talking you up. So, but yeah, great podcast. Love the podcast, and um, I believe you were just touching on one of the episodes that you had just mentioned that you were saying like you read a couple books and everything else on it. I'm sorry. Which?
Well, it was just that was just kind of in general.
Oh,
Just
okay.
kind
I'm
of
sorry.
the average. I mean, because it does vary. I mean, dep depending on the movie, right? So,
Sure.
some movies. Great example. I'll give you two kind of extreme examples. Titanic on one side. Historically, we know so much about what happened, and there's so many resources about it, and pretty much everybody knows a lot about what happened. So that one took a lot more research than something like A Few Good Men, which, quite honestly, a lot of that stuff that happened for that movie is still secret and still classified. So nobody outside the government knows, and I don't know.
Of
So it's
course.
not something that can really have a lot of information on.
I
So it
felt
really
so
does vary.
bad for his girlfriend. Was it his girlfriend or his wife?
Um, I don't That's a good question. I should know. I don't remember if they
Well,
had gotten married at
his,
that point. I think they were still. I think it was his girlfriend.
let's just call her his better half.
Yeah,
Yeah, I felt so bad for her.
yeah. That's such a. I mean,
Oh,
overall, it was a sad story, and that was one of the reasons. Um, some movies like that where there's not a lot of information out there, but there's still that. There's still a story there that I think should be told or should kind of get out there as much as we do know about it.
yeah, and it's like I would have never heard about that story unless it was on Forensic Files, but most of them are solved, and this one is not. So,
Yeah.
you just don't get to hear about it, and and I love that part that you said. I mean, and it's all quotes, and that's the one great thing that you do. It's like some people could say, he's probably making half this crap up, right? But no, because he gives you, this is where I got it from. Go check it out yourself. Like, I highly recommend reading it yourself. Here's a link,
I try
so
to do that as much as possible. Yeah.
yeah, because you don't want anybody to try to say that you're full of, bullshit, right? I mean, let's just, call a goose a goose, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it, I mean, I'm doing a weekly podcast. So then there's people that for each episode that I've done or each movie that gets made, or there's people that spend months, years, like their entire life researching this stuff. And quite honestly, there's no way I could hope to do that and still do a weekly podcast. Right? I can't spend a year on a single episode.
Sure, of course.
Um, and so that's another thing I kind of want to do with the show is kind of to highlight some of those people that do a lot of that research and write the books or whatever that might be, the journalists, the authors, the historians, in order to kind of highlight that to hopefully inspire the listeners to kind of learn more about that and don't just take my word for it, but I've spent some hours on this, but this person over here spent years on it, right? So go
Sure.
read what they've come up with.
You know what I was blown away with was the Hunt for Red October. See, like when I seen that you did Hunt for Red October, I was like, wait a minute, that's that wasn't a true story, like, and then when I hear, when I heard your podcast, I was blown away. I was like, I didn't know this was like based off of a true story of a true events, and okay, I mean, what happened, I'm not totally like, I mean, you know what my biggest question was at the end of that of your podcast? I don't know if you know the actual answer or not. But the first fighter squadron that was tasked to try to sink the ship,
Uh-huh.
and they refused.
Uh-huh.
But so they just sent another one who they did.
Yeah.
What now? You might have said what happened to them, or you might not have. But what was the end result of them when they landed?
I don't know. That was one of those things that unfortunately Soviet Union in particular, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make it out into the public.
I'm shocked.
That's one. Yeah. I mean, so I don't really know. I have a feeling it probably wasn't good.
Well, I mean,
But I don't know.
did Cuba release a single body count after Irma?
I don't know that either. There's a lot
Because
that I don't know.
well, I'm pretty sure they didn't. I was really invested into Irma because it's one of the first hurricanes that's really ever swooped into the west side of Florida, which is extremely weird. And the other thing that was extremely weird was like, three cyclones over the same body of water at the
Yeah.
same time. That's never happened in history, recorded history anyway. In the last 400 years we've been here, so maybe it has. It probably has. But not when two earthquakes happen back to back at the same time as well. And I love, the U.S. media that they don't cover a single bit of that. Mexico's getting hit with a hurricane and two earthquakes, but hey, Irma's about to hit the Keys, so let's focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff going on. It's what do you focus on?
Yeah, I know. It's just like, but when I see a hurricane, a Cat 5 hitting all of Cuba, and it's just kind of, you know, like rim riding the northern shore of it. I can just, you know, and I can't imagine the housing there and everything being really sturdy. You know, and I heard that you know, their government didn't really tell them anything about anything until Wednesday, and it hit them on what, the third, like what, like early Friday morning, or for Friday night, or it was about Friday night, I think. So they had next to no time to really react, you know.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that they didn't have that much reaction time.
Yeah, Wednesday morning is when the government decided to let you know, all the you know, people that were in those tourist attraction-y keys that are on the northern coast of Cuba there.
Oh. Hmm.
And that's where the seawall basically just decimated. And but no pictures, no body count, no nothing came out of there.
Wow.
But then, you know, you get, you know, Barbuda, and you know, it's 95% destroyed.
Yeah.
And I can't see it being any much different than Cuba. So yeah. Um but yeah, I mean, you know, we won't hear nothing about that. But so I was really invested because my mother lives in right outside Tampa Bay in Holiday, and my sister lives in Fort Myers. So, you know, eventually, you know, initially the landfall was supposed to happen in Fort Myers, and then they moved it up to Tampa, and you know, what happened is it hit Fort Myers first. But thankfully, my sister's house was still there when they got there.
Good.
Yeah, the fence wasn't, but the house was. And my mom's house was okay. Just they were out. They just didn't have electricity for a good week. But you know, if that's the worst that happened, then
It could be a lot worse.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Especially for a coast that's not really ready for that kind of stuff or
Right.
used to it. You know, I mean, East Coast, they oh, a hurricane, just a bit of wind, you know. But yeah, I mean, you know, but there was one sentence I read. It was like the southwestern seawall is now in some town in Cuba, and I went, "That's weird. I've never heard that before." So, yeah, what are you gonna do? But so yeah, I'm glad that my sister and her husband John and my little niece Harpy is okay, and my mom and yeah, Ken's okay, so I'm happy.
That's
With
good.
my, you know, it's almost like that storm was aiming at my family, the only family I've left. So, you know, I was kind of invested in that one. But you know, what are you gonna do?
Understandable.
So, and way off topic radio, guys. That's why I told you, Dan, that you'll find out why this is named this. So, but what we were getting at is, you know, basically the kind of show that Dan really, I mean, the amount of hours and just, you know, I mean, it starts off as a passion, and it almost has to be, because we don't make any money at doing this kind of stuff, and we do it out of the love of doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so, you know, you guys can leave your hate mail to yourselves, and or go get a mic and go learn how to try to do one yourself. Good luck. You know, because it took me about 30 weeks, 30 episodes to really get a grasp on what the heck I was doing. I don't know about you, but I mean, I listened to the first couple episodes. It sounded like you were off to the races, and you really haven't changed too much. I mean, as far as, you know, your quality, I mean, you have a great, you know, storytelling voice, and you are a great storyteller, hands down.
Thank
And
you.
and your research is just amazing. So, but my all-time favorite show, I keep saying it, and I tell everybody, I share it, I send it to people, you know, I DM it to them. The first one I always DM to them is Apollo 13, because who doesn't love Apollo 13, right?
That's another one that we have so much information on it that one took a while to do.
Oh, I can really tell because the quality of that podcast is second to none.
Well, thank you. I knew. I mean, there are some of them you go into Apollo 13, Titanic. I mentioned that one already. Some of them you go into and you know that just because the movie is so popular and there is so much we know about it that you got to make sure to do it right, or at least try to.
Yeah, because you're going to have a lot of critics with
Oh
that
yeah.
one. If
Oh
if
yeah.
if you get one little thing wrong, or if you, I don't know, like or you're going to get those people that say it never happened.
Yeah, nobody said that to me on that one.
Oh, I mean, I have an employee that probably would have, but we haven't spoken over a year and a half now. No, that's not true. We spoke Friday. He told me to go fuck myself. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. I tried to get him fired. It didn't work.
Well, one benefit to the Apollo 13 one in particular, I'm fairly certain at that point I was including all the uh, research, all the articles and stuff. I think it's in the show notes for that one. But I found the transcript on NASA's website for all of the communication throughout the actual mission, and it's like a 12 or 13 meg text file, just plain text, and it's just timestamp who it was, what they said next. So I mean, and so that's where I got a lot of those quotes from.
And I love the way you did it. I love the way you did it. Back and forth. You being Houston, you being them, and how you would change your voice up for
Thanks.
I mean, it was just done so well. I mean, I'm still raving about it, and like, of course, Tom Hanks had to get the "Houston, we have a problem" sign, or "Houston, we have a problem" quote in there. He had to.
Yeah.
He's Tom
Yeah.
Hanks. Come on.
Yeah.
But not for nothing. I love Tremors. Okay. And Kevin Bacon deserved to have that line because it was his, damn it.
Well, I have a feeling they paid more for Tom Hanks, so like, yeah, we'll give it to him.
Hey, well, Bill Paxton's there too, man. Come on. This ain't right, man. Game over, man. Houston, game over, Houston. But yeah, I mean, I just can't watch that movie and everything. I just can't fathom how. I don't think people can really. I mean, it's almost like watching The Deadliest Catch, right? They're cold, but you just can't really grasp how cold
Yeah.
they really are until you go there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm in South Jersey, and it gets cold here sometimes. And I don't mind the cold personally, and sometimes I get really cold here, and I'm thinking to myself, there's guys up in freaking Alaska right now because it's December, and this is prime fishing season for them. And they're getting sprayed with icy water, like they're like they have icicles hanging off their beards.
Yeah.
Um, I've never had an icicle hanging off my goatee before,
No.
so I really don't know what cold is. I don't think.
I think I mean, you have the cold, but you also have, especially for those guys on Apollo 13, like there's no escape from it. You can't just go inside and turn the heater on. They are inside. The heater doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean it can't work because they'll drain the battery that will, make them not skip off the atmosphere. You
Yeah.
know.
So you want to be comfortable or do you want to live?
Yeah, I mean, Bill Paxton got a cold apparently, and I guess he proved my grandmother right. The cold will give you a cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to bundle
Makes
up.
sense. Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, I just can't fathom how just uncomfortable that entire situation must have been, especially because like halfway through, not even halfway, I would say, after the incident happened, right? The stirring of the tanks, whatever.
Mhm.
What was it like three days that they were just basically coming back after slingshot shotting around the moon?
I don't remember the exact timeline. I mean, I mentioned it in the episode, but I don't remember.
Oh,
But yeah, it was. I mean, it was days. Yeah, it was a long time.
yeah, and like they were trying to force them to sleep, and you
Yeah.
were even talking about how like just some crucial that was. They were saying, but they couldn't sleep. They tried, but
Right.
how could you when you're in like a position like that?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It also makes sense. The guys back on Mission Control, they're how vital sleep is, especially when you're making decisions that your life literally depends on. And they're sitting there in a nice warm building saying, "Hey, you got to go sleep." Meanwhile, like you said, you don't know until you've been up there, and they're giving orders to these guys, and I don't know. It's a crazy situation for sure. It's one of those things that I will never experience. I'm fairly certain of that, and I'm thankful that I will never experience it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, you have to be an astronaut to even try, or to even, yeah. And but I mean, I have heard by the year, I think it was like 2025 is slated to be the first manned mission to Mars. I think.
I haven't heard an actual date, but I've heard that they're working on it. Yeah.
I watch a lot of YouTube videos on. For some reason, I've been getting into these like YouTube holes of, what will the Earth look like in 1 billion years, and going on and on.
We won't be there to know.
No, because this place will be an inferno. Yeah, there's this band around the sun called the Livable Zone, and that would have moved on to Mars by then. Believe it or not, like I always thought that we were moving away from the sun. No, we're moving closer. No, I'm sorry. That's inaccurate. The sun is getting bigger. That's where people get it all screwed up.
The different cause, same effect.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, because apparently the sun will. I'm going to bore people, but put it this way: the Earth will be uninhabitable, not soon, but eventually. Anyways, moving off of that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the amount of time and effort that you put into that one show, that just blew me away. And that's what, I mean, like, it was one of my first, because like when I first found your show, I scrolled down and I'm like, ooh, Apollo 13. So I listened to that, and that just blew me away. And that's what made me just kind of like, and you were talking in just your last show about people. I think somebody wrote a 5-star review saying how they're going to binge listen to your podcast there, and that's pretty much what I did. I mean, and I almost found it more enjoyable to listen about a movie that I haven't seen.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't get the spoilers in there, and that doesn't bother you?
No, not for movies too much, because I mean, I already kind of know that most movies are full of shit. Even when it says based off a true story or whatever, they do change a whole lot just to make it, it's Hollywood, so that they got to
still entertainment. I mean, yeah, nobody expects it to be 100%.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it'd be on the History Channel, not at AMC.
Well, that gets into something else about the History Channel being 100% accurate, but that's a different.
Well, okay. Well, the History Channel maybe 10 years ago, because right now, what's on the History Channel, I don't think that's history. Really, I don't know.
I will say, and this might throw some people off. I absolutely love Ancient Aliens. It is the best comedy on TV to date.
Yep, Pez. You and Pez are in the same boat.
I mean, I know I shouldn't like it because it's giving them ratings or whatever, but it's like they see a circle, and obviously a circle is a UFO. I just like the leap that they make. I don't know. It's just so. I'm sorry. It's hilarious. I love it.
It's like they have a flat wall of stone, and they have like a little hammer and a chisel. There's only so much you can do with a hammer and a chisel on a flat piece of stone. Especially when you think you're the center of the universe, the world's flat, and you have to keep on cutting heads off of this pyramid to appease the god that is over rule of all of us. So you really can't take everything that they said for canon. You really can't.
No, but obviously it was aliens that showed them how to use that chisel on the wall. I mean, of course. Of course.
I mean, like that's why I always said, I'm like, why is it so hard for people to believe that, a whole group of race of people against their will were able to stack uh, blocks of stone on top of each other, and in a pyramid, which is about the most. If you want to come down to, I mean, I play with Legos. I'm sure you have too.
Oh yeah.
You start with a very large base, and you work your way up to the small base because it's just physics, you know, logic, you know, stuff like that. And that's why it kills me. Like, why can't people accept the fact that they were able to do this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then you get into the the huge stones, and I'm not saying that I know like the exact details, but the another, I guess, a big aspect of that is just because it happened thousands of years ago, or however long these things were built, tens of thousands, hundred thousands of years, depending on which structures you're talking about. um like for some reason, a lot of people today, and I think they make this mistake on Ancient Aliens a lot, like they just assume that just because people were alive a long time ago, that those people were stupid. Like they can't figure things out. Like they're not, they, even though they were literally sitting around all day figuring those things out. And I'm sure there were some really smart people.
Yeah, I mean, comparatively to their time, of course.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they know the tools that they have to work with, and I mean, granted, not the same type of tools that we have now, but the other side of that is those are the tools they have to work with, and when those are all the tools you have to work with, you usually figure out how to work with them pretty well.
I mean, let's see. There was the wheel, and then there was rope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you put a couple wheels together and you put a bunch of rope around them, that's called a pulley system. And
I'm fairly certain only aliens knew about that, though.
It had to have been because, I mean, otherwise, how would
you can't
they
connect
got
two
there?
things together? That's only aliens know how to connect things together.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure somebody stumbled upon that by chance. No, that can't happen. That can't happen.
No,
It's
no, no. Yeah,
aliens.
that doesn't happen.
No. And then Area 51 happens, and all of a sudden, within a matter of 40 years, we have computers and TVs and all that. Oh, I wonder why.
But although it's interesting, I just thought of this, but they never really mentioned that if the aliens at Area 51 gave us that technology, how come the aliens from way back when didn't give them computer technology? Rather, they were just showing them how to build pyramids, but they didn't give them like the same sort of technology that they give us now.
Because we didn't understand electricity yet. We had to wait for
But they could have given it to us, right?
Well, you would think so, but they didn't understand. Their brains weren't. We had to wait until a very fat man in Philly figured it out.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Oh my god, lightning hit my key. And listen, everybody, I hate to bust everybody's bubble, but Benjamin Franklin was not flying a kite with a key on it, and with lightning did not hit the key, because Benjamin Franklin be a dead man. I hate to tell you.
The aliens protect them. I mean, this is the whole theme of this story here. The aliens are always involved.
Always. We
Anyway, I love Ancient Aliens. It's so great.
I mean, cloaking device, right? Cloaking device. There you go.
Exactly.
I mean, what was that? What was that movie in South Africa?
District 9?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, remember the bird? It kind of flew right into it. It was funny looking. And then all of a sudden, I guess the cloaking device ran out of power. I guess, I don't know.
Well, everybody knows that cloaking devices, like their mortal enemies, are birds.
Of course, I mean, it ran into it and it hit some button, cracked a shield or something. That movie was hysterical. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, like, but again, like when I heard your Apollo 13, I was just like, wow, this guy's really good. Like, so, and for me doing this because, doing, and again, this is, podcasting day. So, this is kind of like our day, Dan, so we get to talk about what we love doing and how we do it. And, different shows, require different ways of doing it, and there's different niches and everything. So, like, my bread and butter is racing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm now when we do a show about racing, the racers themselves, they're groomed from a young age to talk, to reporters and to, the commentators of the race or to anybody basically. And their job is to basically, talk professionally, talk about racing, talk about the sponsors that help them get there and all the different motor oils they use and everything else because that's how they get paid and everything.
Sure.
So at a young age, they're groomed to talk to people, right? So by the time they get up into the series that we follow, they're very well, groomed into the interview, right? What they're not very well groomed into is the hour-long interview of we'll talk about you for the first 15, 20, but then after that, I mean, we're just going to talk racing. You're not going anywhere, though, because people are going to find out who you really are.
Nice.
And and I really stumbled upon something there where the listeners of the show, like, that's like the number two most said thing of why they love listening to our show over others is they get to hear another side of drivers that they never heard before, which
Nice.
is a personality,
Makes sense.
because because I can have a 15-minute interview with any driver, and I can play them all for you and tell you their names, and you won't remember them. I don't remember them, Dan. And I interviewed him. So I interviewed Alexander Rossi by myself one afternoon about a week before St. Pete started. St. Pete was the first race of the season last year. Alexander Rossi was a F1 driver who raced for the worst team in F1. They went bankrupt, so he's now out of F1. Now, he's an American that went over to Europe to follow his dream and become an F1 driver. Now, in F1 nowadays, it's not really driver versus driver. It's car versus car, and a driver might as well just be, just another part on the car.
Yeah.
So, you're only going to go as fast as the car will let you. So, drivers really become inconsequential at that point. And Formula One's been extremely boring as of late because it's pretty. You know who's going to win, pretty much, unless they take each other out, which last year they did like 3 times, but it is what it is. Since we're we base our most of our content off of IndyCar and MRTI, which is the 3-ladder series that leads you into IndyCar. What's special about that is when you actually win a championship, Mazda pays for your full ride into the next ladder series of that championship, the ladder series. Where over in F1, you could win a championship, but they don't give you near enough money to, move on into the next ladder. You need to have funding and everything. And you had just done a podcast on Rush, which, by the way, my Missy, my wife / co-host of ISCP, she listened to it, and she actually was very impressed because Missy screws up names of drivers like you would not believe. There's this one driver in particular that we haven't let her live it down yet. It's been over 2 years. His last name is Nikita. His name is Nikita Lashtokin, right? He's Russian.
Okay.
Now, she called him Nikita Lasting Chicken.
Okay.
That's how it came out, Lasting Chicken, and we haven't let her live that one down still. So when you tried your hand at a few names there, You were really close, man, and we had to give it to you, like, because the first time we tried to say Jules Bianchi, um, it was a lot worse than Jules Bianchi, and I gotta tell you, you saying it Jules Bianchi, I was like, wow, that's really close. You know?
Thanks. Pronunciations are tough.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. I mean, and then you got Scuderia. Uh, uh, I can't believe you got Scuderia right. I mean, congratulations, bravo on that one, by the way.
I'll admit I look those up. Like when I don't know how to pronounce something, I'll look it up. The tricky part is that sometimes different people pronounce things differently.
Yeah,
um,
I mean, if you went for Lee Diffie and tried to emulate what he said, he was getting them wrong too. Yeah, he's notorious for it too. But but at any rate, I mean Emerson Fittipaldi, you nailed it.
nice.
Yep, yep. I mean, and the really hard one, James Hunt. I believe that was his name, right? James Hunt.
I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. That's how it's spelled, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure you and and that other hard one, Nicky Lauda. I think you got those both dead on. So good job on that one. And but the really hard one was Mario Andretti, and you got that one right too.
Well, I remember Mario Andretti from back when I was a kid. He was like I wasn't honestly. I'm not huge into racing, but he was the one name that I remembered from childhood when I was doing research on that episode. So it was really fun to get to learn more about him.
Oh yeah, and he is awesome. He is an awesome guy. He really is. I mean, like literally, I can't believe he's still not racing. To be honest with you, that's how just like he's like a little kid still. He's
Really?
oh yeah, he just filled with energy, filled with energy. He does have a grandson that's in the sport. Shouldn't still be in the sport. If you look at his career stats, he sucks. But hey, whatever. There's an Andretti in the car still, so that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways, but getting back to what I was saying, I interviewed Alexander Rossi before he came over, and he was pretty much the big story at that time. And I was the only one that got that I was the only show that he agreed to go on, which was flattering in a way.
Yeah.
And all I did was I found his PR rep. I emailed her. I asked her, and my father always used to say, you'll never know the answer to a question if you don't ask it. It's going to always be no unless you ask, right?
Very true.
So, just like now, I mean, I didn't know you would come on the show with me here unless I asked, and you did, and I can't thank you enough for coming on, really. But he winds up winning the Indy 500 that year.
Nice.
So
Wow.
yeah, so I got to interview a Indy 500 winner.
That's awesome.
Not before, or I mean, not after he won it, but before. But still, I mean, I have that feather in my cap. I could not tell you what the hell we talked about, what he said. I couldn't tell you because it was one of those 15-minute interviews that are so generic in racing. I mean, it's the same 15 minutes they're used to, talking about and saying, and it's almost like they got it memorized. It really is. And then that's why we keep the drivers on, because we all have one thing in common. We all love racing, so they stay on with us, and I think I've already said that part before already, so I'm repeating myself. But that's that's number two main thing of why, because we love meeting our listeners at the track, and we go to a lot of tracks, and we love hanging out with them. It's just the coolest thing in the world. It really is. And the way they act, it's still weird the way like they act like they're meeting like one of their favorite drivers or whatever. It's like, I'm just an electrician, man. Yeah, but I mean, I love the sport, and I love doing radio and all, and I kind of merged the two together, and I got good at it, and it's a lot of fun. And I can't believe we're at week 150 already. So, hey, I can't wait till week 300. So, um, but
Now
yeah,
you said your 15-minute. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, it's okay. All right.
You said you couldn't remember the 15-minute interviews. Does that imply that you like if you do an hour-long interview, you can remember more of what you guys talk about?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Really?
definitely. Yeah, because you get into the because the 15-minute interview is okay, it was Alexander Rossi, but I can call him anything because if I ask the same questions to anybody, they'll all give me the same answers.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense.
And there's only so many questions I can ask them within the 15 minutes. But you give me an hour, and I will come out with some questions that will make you go, good question. And there's, I kind of always aim for that response. I always try to get at least that response once. And the way I look at it, if I'm doing an interview with a driver or really anybody for that matter, if they talk more than me, I feel as though it was a success.
Hmm.
Even though I feel like I'm talking way too much right now, and I have a problem with that.
Well,
Missy's constantly yelling at me to shut up. So feel free to cut me off at any time, and I will stop talking. and
no,
let
I
you
was
talk.
I was just curious because I'm thinking, I mean, granted, my show's a little different, not necessarily interview based, but like as you're asking some of the questions about some of the episodes, I don't remember everything in a lot of the episodes. I mean, I remember. I mean, obviously, I remember it kind of like right away, but as time goes on, like the Apollo 13 episode was a while ago. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but long enough that I don't remember a lot of the details in it. Like how long they were actually after the incident occurred. The tanks and then kind of blew and then spun around. But yeah,
Now,
no, I was just curious.
now, do you remember what main bus was kept going off?
Was that B?
Yes, you got it right. Main bus B undervolt.
It must be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny you talk about the kind of the way the voices were done there. It's funny because when I put that together, I wrote it out. Like I mentioned, I got the transcripts from NASA's website, and so once I found that the actual official transcripts, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I mean, what better way to prove what actually happened than the actual transcripts, right?
Sure.
And so I was going through it all and spent so much time going through them all. And I was like, oh, I got to actually put some of these in here. And so I wrote it all out and got it. And then when I sat down to record, I was like, how am I going to record this? It's just me. How am I going to record these different people saying things? And so that's why I kind of decided to do the effects and things like that, which I'd never done before in a show. So I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. But that was something that was like, I wrote it all out and then I was kind of backed myself into a corner.
So what exactly did you? Because now, I mean, I have a good mic here.
Uh-huh.
It's on a it's on one of those I think it's called a mic arm or mic boom, whatever they
Oh, the
call it.
boom arm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Right. But as far as that goes, that's pretty much as far as my it's as far as it goes for me. Like all the music and all like the intros that I make, it's just one of those little pop-up Sony accordion looking speakers.
Mhm.
And I plug it into my phone and I play music into the microphone.
Nice.
But it seems to work. It works fine. I mean, I fool people with it all the time.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly right. I mean, I'm like the makeshift poor man's podcaster. I swear. Like I don't know how to use software or anything, and which brings me to like the number one thing that people say they love about their show, our show is we don't edit any content out. So when we screw up, you hear it. I hit record, and then we go, and we keep going until I hit end, and that's it. And
Nice.
the only editing I do is with AVS audio converter, and that normalizes everything and makes everything sound the same. And people are kind of blown away when they find out that I use nothing but Skype to record everything. So, yeah, they're actually really blown away by that. But they love it because it's unedited, so they get to hear, the show and what we do, and they just never know what's going to come next, or they never know what I'm going to say next, because things that come out of my mouth are just, I mean, I've had Missy, walk out of her recording studio and say, "We have to start over because you cannot say that." It's happened a few times because I will just go off.
Nice.
But and that's kind of how Way Off Topic Radio was born. Really, was for me just to screw around and test out different equipment and everything. So I'm not using the main show to really do that.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah, and once I kind of got everything down, I didn't really have a reason to do it anymore, because I was doing it on the weekends and like real late at night, and I would do it and I would keep it up for a couple of days and I'd erase it, and then after I stopped doing it, I had listeners keep DMing me like, "Are you ever going to do another Way Off Topic? I love them, like it's just like it's like a nice just break, like you don't have to talk about racing all the time." And I was like, "Well, okay, all right." So then, I held a vote on Twitter one day, and I was like, "So should I make Way Off Topic Radio its own channel?" And I got a bunch of yeses, so I kind of went for it, and I had some support from Don, who runs RedDragonsRadio.com, which we are featured on, and ever since then, it's been a lot of fun. We've grown an audience, believe it or not, and even though a lot of the audience is from ICP, so what's up, everybody? But we've got a lot of new guys, and a lot of new listeners who just love just the format of it. Of they never know what they're going to hear, so
That's awesome.
which is great because we did the Alien anthology, and Pez and I are gearing up to do Alien Covenant next, because we have to finish the whole Alien thing. Now, I'm not looking forward to it because the movie was just.
But you gotta finish it.
Well, I mean, we did Prometheus, and we managed to do that one. So, and see, Don, he does his own podcast. It's called "Am I on the Air?" And he's basically movie and TV entertainment news. He's a spoiler-free show. He usually gives you about 1 to 2 movie reviews. He doesn't spoil the movie. He just gives you, and his reviews. I like his reviews because he doesn't review it as far as the videography was this, or the acting was that, or the directing was this. It's just, how did he feel when he was done and walking out of the theater,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how he grades it, and I kind of like that,
Yeah.
So, basically, and where I was going with that, I just lost it. Oh crap! What was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah. Oh, that's where I was going with it. He called Alien Covenant Prometheus 2 / Hey, it's an alien movie. And that's exactly what that movie felt like.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing you saw it.
I did, yeah, and that's a pretty fair assessment.
Yeah, like I've never watched a movie before in my life to where I couldn't care less if any of them died or lived. I didn't
It was
care.
pretty. I thought early on it was very predictable. That was kind of my big thing with it. Like, I don't remember the exact moment, but it was pretty early on. I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen, and then from there on out, it happened.
Well, I thought Naomi Rapace was great in this one. That's right. I hate her. I can't stand her. Oh, God. Yeah. And if anybody saw the movie, I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't, but trust me, she nailed it. She nailed her scene. And that's funny if you saw it. But no, Michael Fassbender saved that movie again, like he did Prometheus. He saved it from being, if you, I thought about walking out of the movie theater a few times, but Michael Fassbender is just such a great actor that he's the only reason I stayed in it.
He is a good actor.
And Danny McBride. I mean, come on, he's funny. I don't know. Have you watched a lot of Danny McBride stuff?
Yes, I think he's really funny in small doses. I can only take so much before I have to take a break and then just kind of come back a little bit later, and then he's hilarious, and then I'll take a break. So yes, I've seen, a lot of his stuff. His latest Vice Principals and what's the baseball one? Eastbound and Down.
Yeah.
Hilarious, but in small doses.
Now, was Vice Principals good?
It's so you've seen Eastbound and Down?
Yes, I did.
Imagine that, except he's a vice principal. It's pretty much it's very similar his style is very similar. It's just he's not a baseball player anymore. He's a vice principal at a high school. I think it's funny, but again, I'll watch a couple episodes and then I'm good for a while.
I mean, to be honest, the biggest reason I wanted to watch it was Goggins, because I think Goggins is a great actor. I mean, he was in Justified, he was in Django, he was in the latest Quentin movie, Hateful Eight. And I just think he's a great actor, and everybody keeps thinking that's fake teeth. No, that's his real teeth. So, I mean, what do you think about Walter Goggins?
I mean, he does a great job in that. If you haven't seen Vice Principals, I'm not going to say he's Michael Fassbender because very different styles for sure.
Oh yeah,
but he's a great counter to Danny McBride in just the style of comedy. I don't know. I think the two together make for a great pair, and that's the only reason to watch the show, which I guess makes sense because they're kind of the lead characters. But
it's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it just seems like Walter Goggins is I don't think he has the how do I say this? I don't think he really has the chops to really carry something by himself.
Yeah, but I can see that.
But he plays off of other act that Timothy Olyphant, who is one of my all-time favorite actors right now. I mean, and has been for a long, long time. Deadwood was amazing. I watched Deadwood for no other reason than Timothy Olyphant, and that was a lot of hours of just hey, it's Timothy Olyphant, right on the payoff, yay! Oh, he was hardly in it, but I mean, that one episode, I think it was the end of season 4, where him and I guess did the guy that eventually played Negan there? No, that's not him. It's the guy who played. He was one of the he was in Game of Thrones last year with the Hound. Whatever, he saved the Hound. I don't know. Oh, sorry.
I don't think I made it to season 4 in Deadwood. I kind of stopped partway through.
It's a very hard show to get through. There's a reason it didn't end with any sort of conclusion. I mean, boy.
Which honestly didn't really inspire me to continue watching if knowing that it's just going to end and there's not really an end, right? It's well, why should I keep watching it then?
Well, then then again, you just gotta look at history, and hey, South Dakota did become a state, so good for them. That's all I guess you need to know. But I really wish they would have been, and they keep hitting to it that maybe Netflix is going to finish it, maybe that, and I'm like, you're not going to get all the same people back, and how can you? I think some of them are already dead, so it's not going to happen. And that one chick really annoyed me, who was like a really tomboy, so they focused way too much on her. I don't know, and. I mean, I think there was like a few hints of like a true story of here and there in that show. I remember the one with the poker player who got shot in the back of the head.
Yeah,
that was true, but I don't know how true to form it was. There you go. I mean, but that's kind of a TV show. That's really not your bag there.
No, I haven't done TV shows. That's something that I don't know. That would be more difficult.
I think so. I mean, have people have people asked
to do a TV show?
Yeah.
No, actually not. I mean, I've kind of positioned this show as for movies. Initially, when I first came up with the idea for it, I was thinking I could do movies and TV. But then once I started to realize just how many movies there were, and then I was like, well, how am I going to do a TV show where, I mean, Deadwood, like 4 or 5 seasons? Am I going to do all of them, or am I just going to do an episode? Or, movie is a little more straightforward.
Would you believe 7 seasons, Deadwood?
7 seasons?
And they still didn't finish it.
That would be really tough to do, 7 seasons in an episode.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Or even a series of episodes. I mean, that would just kind of take it over, and so... That was kind of one of the reasons I backed away from TV. Just, I don't know. I'm not sure 100% how I would tackle that. And there's plenty of movies to keep me busy. So,
definitely.
I haven't crossed that bridge.
And like, okay. Well, here's a question. What was your favorite movie to cover where it blew you away? Just how, a two-parter actually. Your favorite movie that blew you away of how accurate it was, and your favorite movie that blew you away on how inaccurate it was. There you
go. That is a good question. Let's see.
Aha! I succeeded.
There you go. Yeah. The favorite part is tough because, it's probably cliche to say. I'm sure every podcaster says this, but the latest episode that I work on is my favorite because I just dive into it and really get into it.
Which it was really good, Dan. It really was. I hate to say it, man. I mean, Enemy at the Gates was really good. Oops. Did I just give it away? It's coming out Monday, guys.
No, Enemy at the Gates, that was last week.
I'm sorry. Okay, good. Thank God.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting names mixed up here. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, good.
The next one, people probably would have no idea what it is.
That's true because I never heard of it either. But it was very good and interesting. Wow.
I mean, the most accurate. There's one that it's not out yet, but I've written it and it's scheduled. It was honestly it was one that I wasn't really sure if I would, for lack of a better term, enjoy it. I mean, sometimes I go into a movie and I'm not sure if it'll be a story that'll hold my interest, but it really did, and it was actually incredibly accurate. I mean, for a movie, I mean, again, we're talking entertainment. It's not a documentary by any means, but and that was the movie Loving. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but that's the
no.
It came out in 2016, and it's basically the story of Richard and Mildred Loving. That's their last name, and they were an interracial couple, and they got married when it was in the 60s, and it was illegal for interracial marriages in Virginia, and their case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and basically they're the reason why interracial marriages are legal in the United States. So it was just a fascinating story, and I mean, they were not political. They didn't want to. I mean, they didn't. All they wanted was just to be married and live happily ever after. And so it was just. But they just got dragged into this whole thing, and it was it was one of those where, yeah, it was like, I'm, I don't really know if I'm going to enjoy this, initially get going into it, because you get the political side of it and all that, and that can get really deep really quickly.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it was really good, and it was I'd probably say it was one of the more accurate ones, as far as a movie is concerned. They did a pretty good job of sticking with the timeline there, even if some of the photos that there was a photographer from Life magazine that went out and photographed them when their case was up in the Supreme Court, and it got real popular, and they had their an article written about them in Life magazine. And if you find those photos, which they're on Time now because Time bought out Life, but like the pictures, and then I paused the video at the same moment, and they just, I mean, they basically mimicked those photos. They just did a great job of really making it accurate, I thought.
Oh, that's cool. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to watch the movie now. Like now that's when I'll definitely watch the movie first. And that's very ironic that their last name is Lovings.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, how about on the flip side though?
Oh, inaccurate?
Yeah.
Man, there's so many that I think so there's two that I would pick. One that I liked the movie even though it was very inaccurate, and that's Braveheart. I still enjoyed the movie, just I love the score.
I knew
I'm not a big fan of Mel Gibson, but I like the cinematography. I thought the movie was well done. Even though it was not very historically accurate at all. And then the other would be the Black Dahlia, which is just completely fictional. And that was even one that when I started out and I was researching it, I almost didn't do it because it's all made up.
Now, can you
sure.
now, I think I might have saw that, but it was, I don't really remember exactly what that was about.
The Black Dahlia?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Black Dahlia was a nickname for a woman named Elizabeth Short, and she was murdered in the 70s, early 70s, I think it was, out in Hollywood. And it's still an unsolved murder. And so it's been something that a lot of true crime people have been big into. It's one of those big cases throughout history that's because it's an unsolved murder. And she was, her body was it was surgically cut in such a way that was very precise, like through the spine, just small. It's just it was completely horrid, just the way that her body was found.
Oh my goodness.
But the way the movie handles it is it takes the story of her murder and puts that as kind of a backdrop for completely fictional characters. And so they're the police detectives that are trying to figure out the murder. And so they kind of build this whole story of who might have actually done it. And it's completely fictional. It's kind of the filmmaker's idea of maybe this could be one theory that's not really based on anything other than that. Maybe this could be one theory. It's completely made up, but it's kind of set to the odd thing is that the title of the movie, The Black Dahlia, is hardly in it at all. So
I gotcha.
Anyway, completely very, very, very inaccurate movie.
Okay, fair enough. And as far as the inaccurate but your favorite, or the whole Mel Gibson thing, I was like, well, the whole kilts thing really just made me laugh that it was like 300 years before they did kilts.
But wardrobe, you got to look. Mel Gibson in a kilt, it's going to be on the cover, right? So.
Don't get me wrong. I was happy about it, because come on, Mel Gibson in a kilt. It's every young boy's dream.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You know. But then, and it's funny, and then he goes and does The Patriot, and again, I mean, let's see how inaccurate we can make this one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's another one.
I was blown away that, you know, he was based off of a guy, so that was close.
Yeah.
Good for Mel there.
Yeah, yeah.
He was
that's
male.
about it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be kind of a running trend with those movies, doesn't it?
It really does. Good old
Yeah.
Mel. I mean, you know, never sacrifice the truth for a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, Mel. Where have you been lately, anyway? Oh yeah, all those tapes came out. Oof, that must have been a big PR nightmare. I mean, you know, you gotta do certain things before you get in the jacuzzi. You know, you like this jacuzzi? Well, I like other things too. So, but hey, you know, I'm sure everybody's heard those. So, at any rate, what's one movie that you're really looking forward to doing that you haven't done yet?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. I don't know. So I typically do them kind of on a month by month basis, and so I'm trying to think of what the movies are that I'm working on this month. Let me look here real quick and see. Well, so I've got a. Oh well, I'm working into the holiday season coming up, and man, it's really tough trying to find a Christmas movie. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to find one.
Yeah, because Christmas, I mean, unless it's talking about how it was a pagan holiday and how it really came about, which I can't think of a single movie that is what it's about.
Well, I mean, even so, like last year, I found one. It was I don't know if you listened to it, but it was Joyeux Noel, which was about the Christmas truce of World War One. So, I mean, I'm 100. I thought that was, you know, I thought it was a great movie. It was, even though, you know, there were certainly parts that were inaccurate, but it was it was a good, feel good Christmas type, you know, story. I thought that was, you know, a good one, but I don't know. That's kind of my. I'm not really answering your question, but that's my big struggle right now is trying to figure out what a good Christmas movie would be.
How about George Bailey? What was that? It's a Wonderful Life, maybe?
Was that based on a true story?
No.
That's going to be a short episode. Nope.
Yeah, no, because I'm pretty sure if you know, suns in different galaxies didn't talk to each other, and Clarence didn't come rushing over, you know, and then fall from, you know.
I don't know. I haven't researched that one. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I guess no. His brother wasn't really either. Well, yeah, I'm just saying. You know, it's one of my favorite. You know, it's one of my go-to Christmas movies that I always have to watch at least once every Christmas.
It is a great Christmas, and there's a lot of great Christmas movies out there for sure. It just kind of makes it tough when I'm kind of in a based on a true story aspect. So
exactly.
Anyway, I'll figure something out. I haven't really.
I wonder if A Christmas Story is a true story. I mean, the guy narrating it sure makes it seem plausible. Or
that was, you know, I looked into it very briefly, and it's based on an article that I'm in a newspaper. I think that I'm not 100% sure if it's. I'm not sure if there's really much truth there. That's one I will look into that, and we'll see.
It is so generic, though, if you think about it. I mean, it's an American family that had a Christmas. I mean, they kind of went through it like, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, but then if you turn to a podcast, there's really not much to say about it, I suppose. You know?
Well, that's the other side of it too. Is like, you know, on some of them, it's okay that may be based on a true story, but you've pretty much said all that there is to say, and you're the only source for it because it was your childhood or something, you know. So
Exactly. So if people are interested in Dan Lefebvre's childhood of Christmas and what his favorite Christmas was, which rock on. You're a true fan of based on a true story. Taking a break from the norm, I suppose. But yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. But yeah, I mean, I was yeah, I was just gonna lead into something else there, and I totally derailed myself. Why did I do that? It happens constantly. Uh, yep, way off topic radio, folks. Dan, where can they find you on social media there?
well, you can find me on Twitter. I'm Dan Lefebvre, DanLefeb. Or you do a search for Based on a True Story Podcast, basedonatruestorypodcast.com. Find it all there.
Right on. Oh, and by the way, thank you for the 2-pack of stickers. I accidentally I sent you a picture of it on the back of my work van, right? The one sticker. Yeah. I have to take a new picture of a new sticker on the back of a new van tomorrow. So yeah, you'll be getting that.
Nice. Well, if you need more, let me know.
Well, the rate I'm going,
stickers are cheaper than the vans.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Well, I'm going to maybe 6 to 10, I'd say. The rate I'm going by at least, I don't know, Christmas.
I hope not, but
no, trust me too. But geez, Louise. Oh. Anyways, I mean that's if I survive all the crashes up till then. But I'm really playing with fire now. I'm getting to that average, Average says you're not going to survive everyone there, Frank. I mean, somehow I survived a 100-pound husky and a Harley wreck. I mean, I'm starting to think I'm Superman. But hey, what are you gonna do? So
don't test that theory.
No, well, I'm trying not to, but unfortunately, I have been. Not on purpose. Jeez. Anyways, okay, so, basically, they can find your show wherever podcasts are played. What's your preferred what's your preferred podcast listening app?
I use Pocket Casts on Android.
Okay.
I like it because it also has a web version, and so when somebody you recommended your Twilight Zone podcast. So I was on my computer at the time, so I was able to subscribe to it on my computer, and then I have it on my phone set to auto download anything I'm subscribed to, and so that way it'll automatically download it. So most of the time I listen to podcasts while I'm commuting to and from work or something like that. So that way, when I'm at my computer, I can pretty much just queue it up basically in order to be ready for my next commute.
Right on.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, well, that one, Phoenix, hosts, I don't know what he hosts through. I know his website. I think he uses Libsyn. What do you use?
I use Libsyn as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, me personally, I use Podbean. For the only simple fact is, the app that they have is just awesome because it has a recorder to it.
Oh, nice.
And since exactly, and since we're at tracks all year round, I can get a interview with the driver, and I can use the app to do that. And I have a lot of different microphones, like lapel microphones, seem to be the best. They work out the best. But the trick is, when you put the splitter into the 3.5 millimeter jack of your phone, you have to have a pair of earbuds that accompany the lapel mic, even though you don't use them. They just hang there. It's ridiculous, I know, but it works, and people get to hear everybody talk, and that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found out with podcasting is hearing people talk. Clearly.
Well, that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah, yeah, and after qualifying and before a race and all that good stuff, and the listeners love it because they get to hear things that you don't get to hear through the TV broadcast, or I mean, IndyCar is one of the few racing series for some reason that is really embrace social media, and they're using live streaming to the fullest, on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, you name it, that live streams. They put all their MRTI on there, all their practices and everything else, and then qualifying in the races on NBC Sports Network, when hopefully it's on NBC Sports Network. And whenever it's on ABC, it's just crap. You're going to get a substandard product during race day, and unfortunately it's just because they only do a few races a year. But hey, the TV, the whole TV thing is coming up soon, and renegotiating, and IndyCar will be on its own, not like the IndyCar channel or anything, but it'll be on a single network finally again, and
oh, nice.
And that's just going to be nothing but good for the sport. Yeah, I mean, actually, IndyCar is the only racing series in the world right now for the last 4 years that has grown. Every other racing series is in the decline.
Do you think that'll change when it's on a single network then?
It'll do nothing but help, yeah. Because you figure if a network has every race plus the Indy 500 and everything, then they're going to spend the money to make it the best product they possibly can, right? So they can, sell the ads during the race itself for more money than they used to be able to, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I was thinking of from a distribution platform, if there's, multiple networks, then I was thinking like with podcasting, right? You'd be on iTunes and on Google Play and on Spotify and, all these different places. It's the more distribution networks, the more likely people would be to listen. So I was kind of thinking it's similar concept maybe, but.
That's true. With podcasts, definitely. I mean, and that's another reason why we picked Podbean, because Podbean is kind of like the iTunes for droids, but you can host from it when you cannot host from iTunes, right? But Podbean also, basically it's a very simple, it's a very simple just format to, I use AVS, I put all my MP3s together, splice them into one MP3, and then I, redo that, make it sound nice and good, try to get below 100 megabits because, hey, I think it's like 92 to 93% of all podcasts are still either pulled from iTunes or played from iTunes. And, people like to download things, download podcasts before they listen because, they're very data, they're worried about data if you still have a data plan and you're not unlimited. So, we try to stay under 100 megabits, but still not sacrifice sound quality. So as long as I'm at 160 bit rate, I'm happy. And I know a lot of people have no idea what I just said. I think Dan does, but
I try to stay around 96 myself. But yeah.
Oh, do you really? See,
that's what I export at.
Oh, no kidding. And do you do stereo or mono?
I do mono.
See, I've heard a lot of podcasters say they do mono, and I'm almost thinking you know what? I think I'm going to do this podcast mono at 96, and I'm going to see who it listens to because I'm just scared that it's going to not sound good enough. I don't know, but hey.
Well, I mean, so it kind of depends on. Well, your audience, I guess, but the way I kind of look at it, and some of this kind of comes from my background. I used to work for a company that did online tutorials, and so learned a lot of kind of how the audio side of it works and stuff from there. But so with stereo, I mean, yeah, you're going to get the two different channels left and right. But the other side of that is unless you're actually taking advantage of that, if it's exactly the same on left and right, then you're pretty much, I mean, it's just double, right? So it's the mono, what it does is it's not like it doesn't play in the right ear, it only plays in the left ear. It plays in both, it just plays the exact same thing. So if you're doing stereo and you're playing the exact same thing in left and right, then there's not a huge benefit other than what it does. It pretty much doubles the size because you have two channels instead of just one. And then the other side of that is if you and now if you do want stereo and you take advantage of that on left and right, kind of one of the downsides, and I've heard some podcasts that do this. It's been a while since I've heard them, but where they'll have one person talking in the left ear and one person talking in the right ear.
Oh my God, that drives me nuts.
Stereo, which it's really hard because I usually listen to podcasts in the car, and so one of them is on the driver's side and I can hear them fine, and then the other one is on the passenger side and I can't hear them very well at all, and so it makes it really tough. Whereas mono, I mean, it's always going to be the same, and so for the most part, I mean, you've heard my show; it's just me talking, so it's not like I need to be,
I mean, the sound quality of your show is spot on, and that's why when you told me you're at mono at 96, I went, you are? So it does sound good. Okay, see, I like literally every podcast I've ever I've ever published has always been in stereo, and it's always been at least 1/6 year higher. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, try it and see. It's one of those things where, I mean. I always, at the very end is when I'll do that. So there's a few different files, and I work uncompressed or as uncompressed as I can be until I actually publish the final file. So while I'm editing, well, I guess you don't really do editing, so that doesn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I normalize.
Yeah.
And then I hit convert.
There you go.
And merge. Say that, because I have a lot of sounders, like, every driver we ever have on, we like, hey, this is, this and that, and you're listening to the Indie Sports Car Podcast, right? And then we'll start the theme song, and the theme song I made myself. It's actually the beginning of a BB King song with Eric Clapton.
Oh, nice.
So it's Eric Clapton, BB King just playing the guitar, jamming out, and I recorded at Mid Ohio Indy cars at full speed, and then them braking into turn 4. Which is if a full speed down to a second gear, so it's like wow, 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 and they're braking pretty deep, pretty hard, and it took me about 5 hours to find a 15-second loop of the cars going by that was in tune with the song, and I found it.
That's what matters. That's the end result is all that matters.
Yeah, and it's totally insane. Nobody probably has ever picked up on it, but they might now if you hear it. But it took me a while, and it's just because I can hear that because I don't ever call myself a musician, but I'm like a hobbyist guitarist at best. So, but I mean, I do have an ear for that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
I think it sounds great, to be honest with you. And, I don't ever, everybody loves the theme song. Like, I mean, I always think a theme shouldn't be that long. It shouldn't be that short either, I mean, this show, on the other hand, I mean, I've played full 4-minute songs before we start talking,
Well, I'm glad you didn't do global warming the entire way, because that's like a 7 or 8 minute song.
I was starting to get to know that, to figure that out, but I was just waiting for like kind of the hook to happen. Yeah. And then once the hook did happen, I'm like, okay, cool, I can start, lowering this down and start the show. So, but I was digging the song, and that was the other thing. I was really digging that beat. I really like that riff. So definitely going to, like I said, I'm going to spend some more time with them. Definitely.
Nice.
So I'm really, thank you for turning me on to them.
Yeah, anytime. Great band.
All right. Well, I mean, podcasting day, it just feels like, I mean, the fact that there is an International Podcasting Day, I think, is leaps and bounds just great compared to, like, say, 3 years ago,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anything that you can do to help educate people about podcasts and just kind of let them know that they're out there. And if you have an interest, there's pretty much guaranteed there's going to be a podcast about whatever your interest is.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I get into like a TV show or something,
Oh yeah.
I always find a podcast for it, and more times than not, Bald Move has it. But and that's actually how I got to meet Don of Red Dragons Radio, because nobody was doing Banshee, and Banshee on Cinemax was like probably one of my it's still one of my top five favorite TV shows ever made. I mean, the show was amazing. It was 4 seasons long. They did end it. They didn't cut it. So there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's one of those where season 1 was so amazing. You're like, how could they top this? And they did. And then season 2 was that much better, and you're like, okay, they can't do any better. And they did. And season 3 was even more just amazing. And I mean, it won Best Fight 2015 for Best TV Fight. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
With Nola versus Burton. I mean, Dan, I'll send you a link or something. You gotta watch it. I mean, if you watch it, you'll be like, I gotta watch the show. Wow.
I'll have to check that out. I just got Cinemax with my cable package, so
perfect.
Check it out.
It's on demand.
Nice.
And actually, I went on. So I go on to and then season 4, it was only 7 episodes long, compared to the normal 10, but there's a conclusion, and
not every show has that.
No, it's so rare. I mean, because like that, I don't watch a whole lot of TV just for that simple fact is you don't know when they're going to cancel this and not give you a conclusion. You know, I mean, I can start rambling. I mean, V, I was mad, so mad that they canceled V. I was very upset that they canceled the other Alien show, and I was mad that they canceled that other Alien show.
But Ancient Aliens is still on. It all comes back to Ancient Aliens.
It really does, doesn't it? Ancient Aliens is still surviving, but V didn't survive, and the other one was see, I forget the names of them by now, but they were just so interesting and fun, and then the one, I can't believe they actually finished it. And I just gave up on it. I canceled it myself. and there's only one other show that's still on that I've done that to, and that's The Walking Dead. I canceled it myself after the first episode of who did Negan kill and everything. I'm like, done.
I stopped that show partway through the 3rd season. It just got too. I don't know. It just felt like I was watching the entire season, and then everything would happen at the last episode, and then I'd have to watch an entire season just to watch the last episode again. And so I just kind of was like, I just kind of dropped it off and stopped watching.
Yeah, I feel you, man. And like the actress that played Andrea, the blonde.
Yeah.
Oh God, I couldn't stand her. I thought she was one of the worst actresses I've ever watched. Every time I seen her, it took me right out of the story. It's like, but then it's just a personal, that's my personal preference of what I think of her horrible acting. But I mean, there was a great payoff eventually with her. Just a little bit too late, I thought. They should have done it like, I don't know, season 1, episode 1. But they didn't.
Well, I gotta keep some of them on.
But
kick them off.
I mean, honestly, like after season 2, and the whole Shane story arc came to a final end, I thought that was great. Even though Shane changed to a walker, about the fastest I've ever seen somebody change to a walker. But yeah. But thank God for Carl turning into a man that day.
That was one of those. That was actually kind of one of the things that made me. That wasn't the final straw, but that was kind of one of the things, because in the comic books, Shane dies much sooner.
Oh yeah,
he dies like before they even leave Atlanta, and so they completely changed that. And I had read the first. Well, I bought volumes of them, so I don't remember exactly how many of the comics were in each volume, but
Yeah,
I
because
read the first few and they just started to deviate from it, and so I was like, well, I liked the comics, and now they're deviating from this, and kind of like deviating from history. Why do all these shows have to do this?
because there's a bunch of rich guys that think they know better than the people who create things. I don't understand that. Never have, never will. That's why. I mean, like I said, I mean, we do the podcast because we have a passion for them. We love doing them. We don't make any money off of this. Like, I mean, ISCP. We are now IndyCar Media because enough people listen. And that right there kind of pays for itself, because if you really think about how much it would cost for two people to actually go to a weekend of racing, and there is no package where you can get the VIP access that we get being media. So that we look at that as getting paid for it, but in the end of the day, I mean, we're still paying for the hosting rights. We're still paying for everything. So, but that's not what it's about. It's not about It's about us, just creating just a lot of great fun content, and hopefully people out there enjoy it too. And and it's just funny to see how many podcasts there are out there, and then you look at the dates. You know what I'm saying? And they lasted maybe 3 months, and then I guess they got bored of it, or they thought they were going to make money or something like that. But
I think a lot of people get into it and they don't realize how much work it is.
No, definitely, because I sure didn't. But
you learn pretty quick, though.
oh yeah. Plus, I mean, it's a very interesting story how we started doing this anyway. So, I mean, it was never about making money. It was all about trying to make everybody totally aware again that, hey, IndyCar is back together again. The split's over, and there's amazing racing happening. So you guys got to come on back, and slowly but surely we're getting there. The new car coming out next year is going to be amazing looking. I mean, it is amazing looking. They're testing it now, and I think it's going to be a huge game changer, really. Nice. And Fernando Alonso, the most, literally the most, what am I trying to say? The most famous driver in the world coming over here to race the Indy 500 this year was humongous, because I was at that presser, and I just knew that I was present, and I was there in person, witnessing history, and it's exactly what it was, and it was just such a cool feeling. So I mean just the experiences that the podcast says, just the experiences that doing podcasting and sticking with it, getting better, getting a fan base, having people tell you. I mean, like honestly, people listening, I can't explain to you enough, and I'm sure Dan can back me up here. When somebody takes the little time that it really does take to just even retweet something and say, love this love this show, check it out, or anything like that, it's the feeling you get. It's almost like a high, right?
Oh yeah.
And we can't thank you guys enough when you guys do it. Really, do it more, please. Especially that share button. That share button's a huge button, isn't it?
Well, like you said, it's not all about. I mean, getting paid isn't always monetary, right? It's a lot of it is getting to have those once in a lifetime experiences, like you're talking about, or going places where you wouldn't necessarily be able to, or interacting. Like, I mean, if it weren't for the podcast, we would have never met, and I wouldn't be talking to you right now and getting to know you, right? So, I mean, things like that are just it never would have happened. And so, yeah, there's so much more beyond money.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many times I've sat back and pinched myself, and I'm like, I just want to take this moment in, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for what we've done, and I'll tell Missy, and my wife, she's awesome, but boy, is she hard to impress. Because I'll be
That
like,
just makes it feel so much better when you do, though, right?
oh, when she finally is it like wowed, I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, miss, this is a huge deal, yeah. But yeah, so just experiences and the people I've talked to, and yeah, and like you're saying, you and I talking right now, and this would have never happened if Justin Wilson, who we had lost, at Pocono a few years back, he's the one who put me to task. He made a deal with me because I was terrified to do this. I was terrified because I have a stutter. I have a horrible stutter. There's certain, I say a lot. We play off that, by the way, at the end of every show. My wife goes, that I know that Frank doesn't know. I mean, literally, and then I hit end. At the end of every show, it's self-deprecating humor against me. Which half the show is anyway. So that's why I think not too many people, like send hate our way or anything, because how can you really? Because we make fun of ourselves enough. I mean, there's really not much you can say, and I can count on one hand how many times we've had people do that, and I don't have to defend myself because we have listeners that go after them on their own.
Nice.
I mean, I've had people who've tried to, make fun of us about, like, oh, it's been a half hour and you've said 96 times. I'm like, oh, nothing gets past you, buddy. But the thing of it is, like, like an hour later, they're DMing me, begging me to have my listeners stop harassing him. And I'm like, you're on your own, man. You started it. I didn't tell him to go after you.
That's great to have people that have your back like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice. It's really. It was. I was like, wow, I got like an army behind me. Like, rock on, guys. So, but yeah, it's just like, times like that. It's just, and then and getting back to what I was saying, like when somebody, sends you like an email or just like a DM or just something,
Mm-hmm.
like I have about 15 to 20 listeners that will live DM me during the listening of the show, right?
Oh, nice.
Which I love, trust me. I like listening to the show too. I listen to it to about, I don't know, 2 or 3 times after we do it. Mainly because, the first time for sound quality control and all that stuff. But for, because I truly do like listening to it because it makes me laugh. So, and they ask me questions and this and that, or, because, a lot of it's like opinion based, but most of it's fact based too. And then off the facts, you give your opinions, and that's all, talking about racing really is when you're really into it. So, and then you have your debates with people, but it's always good natured debates. It's never hateful debates or anything like that. And then way off topic, when we did Welcome to Banshee, it was pretty much, I'm still paying for it. We haven't done anything with it since the show ended, and I realized doing a podcast off of a TV show, the podcast is only going to be so good as the TV show was, right? Unless you're doing Twilight Zone, then it doesn't really matter. If it's good, then it's going to be a great podcast because you're just, you loved it and it is what it is. If it's bad, it's so much better because Twilight Zone is just so much fun to just destroy because it's the 60s. Come on. Some of the things they did back then is, oh boy, when they shot in video, it's really bad.
I'm waiting for your Ancient Aliens podcast.
I mean, that's the great thing about Way Off
Speaking of
Topic
TV
Radio.
shows to destroy, I think that would be good.
Well, it's one of Pez's favorites, to be honest. And I'll tell you what, we're gonna do that, Dan, and I'm gonna let you know about it. And I think you coming on and you and Pez talking about Ancient Aliens, I guarantee you guys will just like have a ball going through it because he is addicted to that show, and it sounds like you are too. And I think you two will have a lot to talk about with that. And
It's I don't know how much I would be able to talk about it other than just it blows my mind.
well, see, Pez is like he believes half of it that it could be true, and I'm like,
Well, I mean, it depends on which half. Like the half being that the video that they show of the pyramid, yeah, there are pyramids there. That part of it's true. The pyramids are there.
sure.
Is that the half that's
No, he goes deep. He goes a lot deeper than that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Pez is a thinker. you know, his IQ is very very high, and that's why I love debating with him, especially with Game
nice?
of Thrones because I mean, let's face it. I mean, Game of Thrones, like if you can debate Game of Thrones of different theories and everything, you kind of have to really know the story a lot and everything,
Yeah.
and and to debate different theories and everything, you have to really sit there and think a lot about a lot of different things, and then kind of cross-reference yourself of trying to almost prove yourself wrong. And
Yeah.
I have this one certain theory that is way too long to get into, and I still say it's true because I have been able to beat everything he's thrown at me, and he still will not give me my due. He will not say it is plausible. He just says nope, it's bullshit. It will not happen. Shut up.
Well, now you got me curious what the theory is.
Uh, the best I could really do is send you a video from YouTube because there's one YouTuber. It's about a 15-minute video. That's how long it is,
Okay.
and he uses visual aids and
He
a
makes it a lot
video.
faster.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to get where I'm coming from with his video than for me to explain it. Because if I were just to say it in like a Cliff Notes, you'd think I'm insane, and you'd say no, that's impossible. But if you watch his video, that's exactly how I saw it, and I came up with this like 2 years ago. And,
Nice.
so I didn't steal from him or anything, but uh, when I saw the video that he put out, I went there it is there, and I showed Pez. It didn't sway him not one bit. It still didn't help me. Still didn't help my case, Dan. But well,
I guess we'll all find out when the series ends.
yeah, I think if it does come to pass, it'll be a book thing. It won't be a show thing. Because if it does come true in the show, that will be the fastest freaking turnaround in what was it 6 episodes of a final season you've ever saw.
Yeah, well, didn't they say though that in these last couple seasons that time doesn't matter as much because they are speeding things up quite a bit?
Yeah, they call it jetpacking.
Yeah.
Like there is no way that you can sail. I mean, it's just insanity how the one I Don Willie. It's a Dawn of Ice and Fire on YouTube. Everybody, check him out. He's I'm not really a huge spoiler guy. I like videos on history and lore of Westeros and Planetos and all that. So a Dawn of Ice and Fire. Love that guy. He's been on the show a few times. He does every Thursday. He'll do like a separate character of the show, and he'll talk about his book story arc and the show story arc. Then he'll take fans from the live stream because of the people in the chat. And he finally did my favorite character. I've been begging him to do it, so he finally did it this week. So I was all happy and giddy.
Nice.
He finally did Jack and Hagar, and he's always been my favorite character because I cannot figure him out, and I've tried so hard, I just can't. What I've come to realize is there is really no Jack in the Guard. There's about 30 of them. It's just 30 dudes using the same face. It's got to be like I mean, think about the cage, right? You got the Biter, you got Rouge, and then there's Jackin, and they're terrified of the dude. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, that's because it's not really him. So
Well, he is like
that is part of my theory, by
not
the
Master
way.
of Faces or whatever, but you know, he's the I don't remember his official title, whatever he calls himself.
Oh, what do you mean? The Faceless Man?
Is that what they? I mean that because that's I can't remember what he calls himself as opposed to
Well,
like
he,
like the society that he's kind of a part of.
oh, well, I mean, he's a faceless man, right? They call themselves the Faceless Men, and he's no one.
Okay,
You
there you go.
a girl, a boy, a man,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, they're basically just assassins for the many-faced god. And every god is the many-faced part of the many-faced god, and that god is death, right? And it's just a few things that he says to Arya. It doesn't make any sense why the Faceless Man would have such an interest in this girl that they shouldn't even know exists or care about exists, but they do for some reason. I don't know why. It's just like,
Because otherwise he wouldn't be in the book.
well, of course, of course. I mean, if we want to get down to it, it's because George wrote him in there, and it's like, but okay, so it's like Dan. When you were 9, you really liked history, right?
Yeah.
So tomorrow, your dad went and got Stephen Hawking to come in to teach you history. I mean, that's exactly what Ned did. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to have a sword, I guess I better get somebody to teach you how to use it. How about the first sword of Bravos? Okay, no problem. Like, well, get the fuck out of here. And why is Ned so damn close to Bravos like that? Like, well, what connection does he have to Bravos? And who founded Bravos? Oh yeah, the Faceless Men. You see where I'm going here? Just saying. And that's kind of the springboard of my whole theory. Yeah,
Interesting.
we might see Sean Bean once again. Who knows? No, Ned's dead. Who knows? I mean, in my theory, he's not. But that's just my theory. Anyway,
Guess we'll find out. Maybe.
you never know. I mean, it is show canon. I don't think it's book canon, but it is show canon that you can make up a faceless man can wear a face of somebody that is still alive.
Well, the show is past the books anyway, so they can make up whatever they want.
True, but when that part of the show happened, it was before the show passed the books.
Yeah, but they're got their last season. They can do whatever they want now. They could change it all up.
Oh shit! I mean, they fucked up season 7 royally already. I mean, because they're so past the books. I mean, literally the end of the books. I mean, John's dead. I mean, in Winds of Winter is when John might come back. Yeah, maybe.
I like how you're being all coy, like, maybe. Don't want to spoil anything.
No, I'm not the type. Well, there is a theory, though, that Don has, and I love the theory. Now, okay, so why... Oh, okay, they burn Shireen. Melisandre burns Shireen because she thinks that Stannis is dead. And, of course, she keeps saying that Stannis is Azor Ahai, the Princess Promise. But her burn, only death can pay for life, right? Turns out Stannis isn't dead. and she winds up bringing Jon Snow back to life because he's really the princess's promise, and that's how he comes back to life. That's Don's theory, and and that's strictly a book theory. And the whole time he's warged into a ghost.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And see, that's why I follow Don, because Don's not into spoilers or anything. He's got a brain and he uses it.
Yeah.
And what he comes up with is really interesting and makes you think.
Yeah, that's food for thought for sure.
Definitely. But and the other two, Gray Area, that's Gray with an A, also been on the show a few times. She's awesome. She's probably made my one of my favorite Game of Thrones YouTube videos, and it's about the Red Comet, and what everybody in the Song of Ice and Fire was doing at the time. That's when Daenerys was birthing her dragons.
Yeah.
And then Bridge 4, my buddy Kev up in North Jersey. And his videos are really, really cool. No spoilers of any sort. It's all just really smart, just really smart stuff, and I love things that make you think, so they really get you thinking. All right. Boy, we've talked for a while here, Dan. Yep, we're going to 2 hours. But hey,
nice.
it is podcasting day, and I think we deserve it. We deserve to have fun, right?
But it's all for the listeners.
It really is, though.
That's what it's for.
Wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you guys out there, and we hope you've enjoyed these last 2 hours, and we hope you enjoy Dan when he comes back really soon for Ancient Aliens / Alien Covenant. Because
I'm not 100% sure I want to be associated with that, but I guess I've already said that I love the show because it's so funny.
Hey, you're already locked in, and Pez is available Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Normally Wednesday night, I think. But we'll see. But I mean, whenever Pez is available, I jump because his availability is just getting less and less anymore. But hey, he's got a 50-50 custody of his little daughter, so, and his daughter comes first, and rightfully so,
Yeah, he's got his priorities right.
Oh, definitely. Pez is Pez is definitely he's inspired me to make my life better in certain areas, and it wouldn't be if it wasn't for him. So that's what a best friend's for.
Good.
So all right. Well, I think I think we've I can't. I mean, me personally, Dan, I can go on for 6 hours, but I'm sure you've got stuff I mean, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Happy podcasting day to you, sir.
Yeah, same to you.
Really, and I mean, for somebody that doesn't know a whole lot about racing, what you brought to the movie Rush, I was extremely impressed with. I really
Thank
was.
you very much. That means a lot. It's like I said, I'm not racing is not my history, but I did a ton of research, so hopefully it came through.
I mean, for you even mentioning the latter series of how you get to Formula One, I was like, wow, he nailed that. Back then there was 3, now there's 7, but
change.
well. Yeah, but that's all because of money, I mean, if there's a bunch of rich kids that have money, they will invent a series so they can race and so they can take their money, and that's basically what it's come to.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why GP2, GP3, F3, F4. I mean, F1600, the Renault 2.0. I mean, these are all ladder series that get you to Formula One, and nobody pays attention to any of them at all. Just the people who pay a lot of money for them, and I guess their family who gave them money for it, I suppose.
Nice.
But again, I mean, the knowledge you brought, I was totally blown away with, because you nailed, you just nailed it, and it just made the movie Rush that much better just to watch, knowing all the history behind it, So
Thanks. It was a blast to do.
Yeah. It sounded like you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoy all of them.
Well, of course.
If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do them.
Well, and that's another thing. Like not only are you a good storyteller, but you can really tell that you enjoy what you're doing. And I mean, it really comes across like we hear that a lot too. It's like when we do ICP, it's like we're always having a good time, we're always laughing, but we're always making sure that you're well informed of everything that's going on too. So. And if we can, accomplish all of that, then I think we've done our job, and we've made a new IndyCar fan, or brought in an IndyCar fan back, because back in the late '90s when IndyCar split, everybody went, "Fuck you, you bunch of rich assholes! I'm not going to watch," and IndyCar died. Okay, almost died. They were like redlining there, and then. In 2009, they got back together again, unified, and people started coming back, and now it's the most competitive racing on the face of the earth. So there you go, and it's only going to get better next year with the new car. I'm telling you, this new car is so fucking sexy. Oh, nice. God. Anyways, all right. So once again, Dan, where can they find you on social media, and your show on where can they find everything?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. That's Dan Lefebvre. It's DanLefeb. Or you can find the show at basedonatruestorypodcast.com.
Right on. And as always, guys, Way Off Topic Radio. Basically, that's it on Twitter. Just drop the A off of radio, because Twitter really sucks with names and letter count. But also, my other shows, you can go to the IndySportsCarPodcast.com for all of our social media, and where you can find all of our shows. RedDragonsRadio.com, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, of course, Podbean, and about 50 other different podcatcher apps and different apps that I don't even know where they are or what they are, but I know they're there, so you can find it. Excuse me. And also Loitering in Wonderland on YouTube. That's where I co-host the Twilight Zone review show with Phoenix West. That's his channel, Loitering in Wonderland. Best place to go is YouTube, because he does a lot of videos. My personal favorite is his Nick Cage cast, and I know Dan's really into movies. Yeah, and that's something you might want to watch, because it's hysterical. He watches.
Who doesn't love a good Nick Cage movie?
Oh, I mean, come on, Zandali? You kidding? I mean, I don't do drugs. I'm not asking you to. I'm just forcing them in you with some oil. Oh, God. And oh, my God. And then Phoenix is just going, ow, ow, ow. I think they're really fucking... This is hysterical. I fell out. Oh, my God. And he has another show called Americant. Very witty, because he's a stand-up comedian. Very witty. It's all written out. I thought it was great. Then he freaks out at the end, because he actually trapped himself into the corner of his room for 6 hours, and he had to pee. That was really funny. I'm telling you, the dude's hysterical. And his name's Phoenix. Spoiler: it's not his real name. And he lives in Phoenix. And here's the really weird part: he came from Michigan, Detroit, and that's when he gave himself the name Phoenix West in Detroit. Yeah, yeah. He'll tell you the same thing. He doesn't live a good life. And it's funny because the first time he was ever on, way off topic, go back in the archives, guys, and the first time Phoenix was ever on was the first time I ever did a Twilight Zone show with him, which was back in like last December. I asked him why, Phoenix West and everything, and he Demolition Man.
Oh yeah,
Simon Phoenix, and so I go,
Yeah.
that's awesome, dude. I love that movie. I'm like, so is the West part because it was Wesley Snipes, and he goes, that's hysterical that fits.
That's awesome. You didn't even think about that.
No.
Yeah, that's what it was. Sure.
Yeah, so now he just says, yeah, but
That's great.
He just said West because it was west of him. Phoenix was west.
Oh
of him.
yeah.
That was it. I'm like, you mean to tell me you never put that together? He's
No,
like,
I like yours better. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just to give you an idea of Phoenix. But I love him to death. He's a great guy. So, anyways, yeah. I mean, and if you have Cinemax, I cannot stress enough, Banshee, guys, it's on demand. And we also have Welcome to Banshee is up everywhere that I just said. All of the other podcasts are. Don and I, DX Don Mega from Am I on the Air, RedDragonsRadio.com. We did season 1, 2, and 3 breakdown, and then we did a season 4 episode breakdown by episode because that's when we caught up to it. But I'd really still like to do season 1, 2, and 3 one of these days, since I am paying for it still, and I figure might as well do something with something I'm paying for. I just need to find somebody who's just finding, Banshee for the first time, really getting into it. And so we can go like episode by episode and do it because Don's over in Tucson, weirdly enough, and he just doesn't have the time to do it with me. Plus, that ship has sailed for him. So, but not me. I still say that it's one of the best TV shows I've ever made. I'm telling you, Dan. You watch season 1, episode 1, you'll be hooked. You'll be hooked, buddy.
Nice.
So, Dan, if there's one movie out there that everybody should go see that they might not have ever heard of, what should it be, buddy?
One movie that they haven't heard of?
Yep.
Wow, that is a really hard question.
Well, you've done a lot of movies, not a lot of movies, but you've done some movies where I would have never heard of them if it wasn't for your show. And after hearing them, I went and watched them, and I was so happy that I did because they were really good.
So, what's one that you hadn't heard of that you went and watched and you really enjoyed?
Oh, hold on.
Turn the question back on you.
Yeah, I was actually waiting for that. That's why I quick grabbed. By the way, believe it or not, you are on Podbean. Your show is on Podbean.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think they publish. I think Libsyn publishes to a lot of different places. Not hosted through Podbean, but I think the directory there works for that.
Well, I'll put it this way. I had no idea what Dunkirk was about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I love World War II movies. Like I love war movies, and I had never heard of Dunkirk. I've never heard of that story. I just never heard of it, and it's amazing that if they didn't halt like they did, because I guess they must have ran out of crystal meth, which is insane, but true, guys. Yep, true, because Dan said it. And he wouldn't lie. Trust me. Or, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't lie. You wouldn't lie to me, would you, Dan?
Well, if I say no.
Touche, sir. Touche. Well, either way, he got me to watch it, and it was a great movie. And I was more educated when I was watching it too.
Good.
So there you go. And I would have never watched it had it not been for your show. So cut right off the top of my head, Dunkirk, right there. So
Good.
anybody hearing this, go see Dunkirk. You will not be disappointed. Wow. I mean, just
Yeah.
whew, the war.
Crazy story.
The war would have been so much different, wouldn't it have? Oh my goodness,
Yeah. I mean,
that's a
it's
lot of
just
manpower.
one of the what ifs. I think there's a lot of those that happened in World War II, but yeah, that's definitely one of them, especially right off the bat because that was early on in the war.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, that was like before people were really like, oh, wait, what's going on over there now?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and the British are not for nothing. You say what you want about the British, they are some tough sons of bitches, man.
Oh yeah, they went through. I mean, I don't no other way to put it. It was living hell. I mean, a nightmare. For that time, it's crazy.
Tell me about it. But I mean, they are just very honorable people.
Yeah.
Very, if they bring shame upon themselves, they just would rather, hey, there's a bomb, let me run towards it. I'll regain my honor back somehow. Alrighty.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, Pez always says that we still haven't figured out a way to end the show. I mean, figured out a great way to start the show, with the music and all that, and then me, introducing you and everything. Haven't figured out a way to end it yet, but Pez came up with a great way, and so basically, just want to remind everybody, definitely check out Based on a True Story, wherever your favorite podcasts are played. And Dan, happy podcast day to you, buddy.
Happy podcast day to you.
And happy podcast day to all the listeners out there. So until you hear our voices again, peace.